Hi everyone, I'm AboPP, probably the best and only Indian Nuzlocker on YouTube. In this video, I'll be continuing my attempts at doing a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Renegade Platinum, which is a ROM hack created by Drayano based on the original Pokemon Platinum. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I'd highly recommend you check it out before watching this video. As a reminder, in a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it meets its demise. Additionally, my rules for a hardcore Nuzlocke are on screen now. I also request you to please hit the like and subscribe buttons as they help out immensely and will ensure you find some money on the street tomorrow. Trust me. During my 5th attempt, I was able to beat 6 gym leaders while losing 14 Pokemon, a few of whom were quite unfortunate while a few were just plain stupid. I mean, unless the logic is, okay, so that's 2 cross chops, right? That's 3. Wait, what? We didn't have sturdy? We did! Oh no, it's Gen 4 sturdy! No! Regardless, I was feeling pretty good about the run at this point, and my journey continues with my next encounter, a Sneasel named Alexa in Snow Point Temple. I then help Candace and Maylene put a Regigigas to sleep by pushing it? I don't know. At least we can now go and face Candace, but the casualties in this video start quite early. I have no words. Skill issue. That's a crit explosion. I don't usually whine about bad luck, but what the actual fuck? If you missed part 1, Jericho was one of my better Pokemon and had great synergy with Kenny the Togekiss, and I just lost him because of a low roll crunch which left Glalie on 1 HP and allowed her to hit the most maximum value explosion of all time, which got the critical hit to one-shot my max HP Umbreon. I sincerely hope that my luck doesn't get any worse than this. Candace time, and my plan is to set up another substitute sweep, which has been the MO for this run. I lead with Moxley the Infernape against her Abomasnow, who sets up the Hail. Moxley though can one-shot her with a Fire Punch and Wall Rain comes in. I switch to Piper the Lapras, whose Water Absorb ability prevents her from taking any damage from Surf. Walrein gets off a yawn as Piper sets up a substitute. Walrein can only hit her with blizzards which are double resisted, so I can freely start setting up Dragon Dances as the AI doesn't usually switch. A Toxic can now slowly whittle away at the Walrein as Piper continues to set up to +6 attack and speed, and the battle is won. Candace's Mamoswine, Frostlass and Glaceon fall to 1 waterfall each. Her last Pokemon, Weavile, hangs on but only uses Swords Dance, so falls to a 2nd waterfall, winning me the Icicle badge. I catch a Celio named Yano and a Piloswine named Mantle. I'm already over Jericho's death and can only foresee good times ahead. Swagger is not the best thing in the world, but it's fine. No! No! Well, we've lost 1 Elite Formon. That might be the most heartbreaking death I've had since I've started doing Nuzlocke's period, not even since I started streaming. Honestly, past me is probably correct. Kenny was the best Pokemon along with Moxley, and to lose him the way I did, being completely outplayed by a random grunt, was heartbreaking. His death fills me with rage that I've never experienced, and my team and I are out for vengeance, and the first step is to destroy the person who employed that grunt, Team Galactic's leader Cyrus. Jade the Aggron, Rowan the Blastoise, PCB the Dugtrio, and Ricochet the Hitmontop can help achieve a pretty clean victory. I then face Commander Saturn, who shall suffer my wrath too, as Jade, Brett the Mantine, PCB, Kevin the Ampharos, Broski the Drapion, and Taker the Dusknoir ensure another easy battle. The battle that won't be easy, however, is the potentially run-ending 12v12 fight with Barry's help against Commanders Mars and Jupiter. This battle was insane, so I will have to cover it with as much detail as possible. They lead with dual Crobats as I send out Jade and Barry sends out his Staraptor. I set up a substitute as both Crobats double up with Brave Words on Staraptor, taking him out. A Rockline, which is Rock type in this game, from Jade takes out 1 Crobat as the other nails a Brave Word on Snorlax but takes a Zen Headbutt in return. Electivire comes in and gets rid of the substitute with a Cross Chop as Jade poisons her with Toxic and Snorlax takes out the Crobat. I protect on the incoming Gastrodon's Earth Power as Electivire misses a cross chop on Snorlax, and Barry, who had the perfect opportunity to hit a Zen Headbutt on Electivire, uses Slack Off. I switch to Taker, but Electivire continues to target Snorlax and gets the clean one-shot as Earth Power does decent damage. Barry sends in Breloom, but instead of using a Grass move on Gastrodon like he should, goes for Force Palm on Electivire instead, which would have fallen to Taker's Earthquake anyway. The turn ends with Barry's third Pokemon falling as Taker is on a little over 50% HP. Heracross and Yanmega come in, and I mess up by going for a Protect and am punished. Yanmega one-shots Heracross with Hurricane and Gastrodon recovers. I once again make the wrong move by switching to Rowan as Yanmega detects and Gastrodon does a lot on Barry's Arcanine with Earth Power. Water Spout almost one-shots Yanmega, who took out Arcanine, and does more than half on Gastrodon as Earth Power deals some damage to Rowan. A second Water Spout takes out Gastrodon as Yanmega detects again. Tangrowth comes in and I get off a Toxic while taking a Giga Drain as Yanmega gets the double detect. A Protect helps heal back some HP via leftovers as Yanmega falls to Empoleon's Ice Beam. I switch to Taker on a fake out from Kangaskhan, who has Scrappy to hit ghost types, and a crit Giga Drain almost knocks out Taker and helps Tangrowth stay alive for one more turn, which is really annoying. Kangaskhan whiffs a crunch on Taker's Protect as Tangrowth falls and Sableye comes in. Jade is switched in on Shadow Claw and Crunch but doesn't take much, though Empoleon misses Hydro Pump, which would have one-shot the Sableye. I then forget about Hammer Arm, which thankfully misses, but Shadow Claw crits and Hydro Pump misses again as I set up a substitute with Jade. These misses really hurt. Empoleon finally nails a Hydro Pump to take out Sableye as I poison the Kangaskhan even though I should have used Protect there. Empoleon nails another Hydro Pump on Kangaskhan to take her out. Barry's starter has been much more useful than his other 5 Pokemon combined. Bronzong comes in and sets up a Stealth Rock as Skuntank and Empoleon exchange blows and Jade sets up another substitute. Eventually though, I'm left in a 1v2 situation as Empoleon falls after getting several vital kills. Skuntank eventually falls as Jade has a substitute up. This was my biggest misplay yet. Based on the previous moves, with Substitute I could have easily PP stalled both Pokemon but didn't spot this, which causes me to now stare down 2 Bronzong which are both incredibly bulky, with Jade having only Rock Climb to damage them. I switch to Mankind the Abomasnow, who doesn't have Snow Warning. I'm fine to lose him so can risk a crit here and use Leech Seed on one of the Bronzong while barely surviving an Earthquake and Flash Cannon combo. I switch to Rowan on the same combo and heal back to over 50% after Protect through leftovers and Leech Seed recovery. In hindsight, I should have just used the second Leech Seed from Mankind and let him fall, as that would have given me a free switch and a lot more recovery with Protect. Unfortunately, I now have to risk a crit on Rowan, who is much less expendable and a surefire Elite 4 Pokemon. I go for Surf, but the second Bronzong's Grass Knot crits, which takes out Rowan. This does mean that I can get a free switch in for Shayna, who can take out the 2 Bronzongs and Parugly with Drain Punches and Tamina the Relicanth's help. That was a long battle and included a lot of misplays on my part, all of which were avoidable if I just took my time and planned better. Rowan's death is completely on me and I'm going to do my best to plan better for future fights, as otherwise, the snowball effect could cause me to take a very mediocre team into the Elite 4. The Distortion world is up next, and having not played a Gen 4 game in over 10 years, it took me almost half an hour to reach Cyrus, and that was after a lot of help from chat. I faced Dialga and Palkia first, but the strategy is simple. Yes, I am taking Cat the Delcatty and Warrior the Unknown into this fight. I lead with Bailey the Milotic pre-damaged to ensure that Palkia targets her. Piper, holding a Focus Sash, can now safely get off a Perish Song as Bailey protects. When I caught Warrior in part 1, I mentioned that they would be useful later on, and now is that time. Thanks to some switching amongst Tamina, Cat and Warrior, all of whom are expendable, I'm actually able to manage this fight deathless with the time and space gods falling in front of an Unknown and a Delcatty. Cyrus time, and I get healed before the fight. Crobat has a held choice span, and because of Bailey's part fairy typing in this game, is baited into using Cross Poison, which is confirmed with the Protect, so I switch in Jade and can set up to +6 speed with a substitute up. A few rock climbs and an earthquake for the Magnezone can help defeat Cyrus one final time as his big master plan comes crumbling down in front of his very eyes. That's for Kenny and Rowan, you blue-haired bitch. Time for Giratina, the only legal encounter in the Distortion world, and while I do catch them with a Master Ball, I've banned legendaries for this run so they can go in the box. With the world saved, I can get a new encounter, a Lunatone, who explodes on Warrior before I can catch them. Well, better Warrior than anyone else, I guess. I do catch a Girafarig I forgot to nickname, a Surskit named Sting, a Tangela named Midian, and a Staryu named Booker before the next gym battle against Wokner. Against one of his gym's ace trainers, Charlotte the Nidoqueen, who made vital contributions during part 1, falls to a critical hit flamethrower from Manectric, but she had done her job by that point, so can rest in peace. Wokner time. I lead with Psy Spice to, you guessed it, set up a substitute. She won't be setting up though. Instead, she uses Captivate on the lead Jolteon to bring him down to -6 special attack. I then switch to Brawn the Torterra, whom I haven't really used this run unless it's completely risk-free, and the reason for that will be evident soon enough. I can set up to +6 attack and speed using Swords Dance and Rock Polish, as Jolteon does barely any damage with Grass Knots. Brawn has Shell Armor, so can't get crit. It's then a case of clicking Return and Earthquake a few times, and just like that, the 8th and final gym badge is mine. I catch a Tentacruel named Karma and a Hariyama named Akibono. It's now time for the long and challenging Victory Road battles, and I'm going to be using Pokemon that are most likely not going to be used in the Elite Four fights. This allows me to play aggressively, but also causes a few deaths. Broski the Drapion because I forgot that Mismagius was part Fairy type in this game. Brett the Mantine because I couldn't be patient enough to see that Salamence could one-shot him with Thunderfang. Booker because Charizard is part Dragon type. Alexa to a freaking Parasect predicting a switch and getting off an Effect Spore poisoning, and PCB to a Carbotops. I catch one of my last encounters, a Gastrodon called Banks. Up next is the final battle with Dawn, and I feel like this is my most topsy-turvy battle yet. I lead with Mercy the Bennett against her Alakazam, who is one shot with Sucker Punch. Torterra comes in, so I switch to Mantel on a strong Earthquake. All I need to hope for is that Icicle Crash hits, which doesn't happen as Mantle falls. For some reason, my backup plan against this Torterra involves Steiner the Granbull, who has to dodge a flinch from Ironhead and hit a 75% accurate Lovely Kiss, which he thankfully does. I then use Charm 3 times as Torterra stays asleep. This means that I can keep nailing play roughs as Dawn fetches for crits with Stone Edge and eventually take Torterra out. Oh yeah, Frenzy Plant is a special move, so isn't affected by Charm. While I didn't use Steiner much, he is the reason I'm still in this battle. I can send in Rhea, who has Shell Armor. Because Torterra has to recharge, I can set up a substitute. Rhea is faster, so I can set up safely with Agility and Swords Dances, as only Frenzy Plant can get rid of the substitute in one move, and every time it's used, Torterra has to recharge, so I can just set up the substitute again. By the time he goes down, I've set up to +6 attack and speed, which means I'm unstoppable and can easily win. Nope. I forgot she had a Vaporeon with Water Absorb, so Rhea is useless against it because her only attacking move is Waterfall. Well, I can still win though, as Karma can set up Toxic Spikes and Mercy can take Vaporeon out. Her own Mamoswine comes in but locks herself into Icicle Crash due to a held choice band, so I can switch in Jade and set up a Stealth Rock. For some reason, I have the bright idea to switch in Rhea, who survives an Icicle Crash at 1 HP. No idea what got over me there. I switch back to Jade and Dawn heals, but Mamoswine eventually falls to Earthquakes. Last in is Lopunny, who crashes into herself with a high jump kick on a Protect and slowly falls to toxic damage as I pivot between Jade and Karma. I have no idea why, but I really enjoyed that battle a lot. I catch my final encounter, a Love Disc, whom I forgot to name, but it's not like she'll be used for any important battles, right? And now, it's time for the final battle with Barry, and I cannot wait to get rid of who I believe is the most annoying rival in Pokemon history. I lead with Jade against his Staraptor, who has a held choice band and is baited into using close combat. I switch to Mercy, who can slowly bring him down using Will-O-Wisp and Sucker Punch while having a substitute up. Arcanine is taken out with a couple of Shadow Claws and some Flare Blitz chip damage. Heracross uses Stone Edge on Mercy's substitute but gets poisoned due to a held Toxic Orb. So I can pivot between Jade, who can tank Stone Edges easily and baits close combats, and Mercy, who isn't affected by close combats, as Heracross falls to poison damage. Snorlax comes in and will cause some problems. Mercy misses a Will-O-Wisp and Earthquake takes him out. He really pulled his weight during the Victory Road and the last few rival fights as the resident Ghost type to protect Taker, so I'm grateful for his contributions. Brock the Machamp comes in for what I believe is his first major battle and can one-shot Snorlax with close combat. I switch to Karma and then back to offset the special defense drop when Empoleon gets a crit Flash Cannon to take him out. Thanks for taking care of Snorlax, buddy. Rest well. Karma had stayed in long enough to get rid of Empoleon's Hydro Pumps, so Jade can bring him down to low health and Karma can slowly take him out with weak Surfs while staying out of crit range with Protect and Leftovers. Last is Breloom, so a single Sludge Bomb takes him out as I've beaten Barry, one final time, and it feels so good despite the 2 deaths. Well, it's all come down to this. Several battles and 28 deaths later, I'm at the doorstep of the Renegade Platinum Elite 4, and here's the kicker. Each of the Elite 4 and Champ have 4 potential teams, of which one would be chosen randomly. This means that I need to prepare for each of the 4 teams for all 5 fights and decide the 6 best Pokemon for the job. As in part 1, a big thank you to Durable2222 on Reddit who helped immensely with theory crafting for these fights, and I'd be remiss to not mention him here. Here's my team. Moxley the Infernape, my starter and best Pokemon still alive. Braun the Torterra, the apparent best Pokemon in the game, whom I've protected from the start because he will be helping take down 2 Elite 4 members. Taker, the bulky ghost type who has been great throughout. Newcomer Lovedisk, who will be having a debut battle in the Elite 4. Karma the Tentacruel, my specially bulky water type who just edged out Milotic due to better IVs. And last, but certainly not the least, Kevin the Ampharos for support and his great electric dragon typing. Can I lead them to victory on my first attempt past the initial rival fight? It's now or never. First up is Aaron, and I'm hoping to exact revenge for the massacre he caused in part 1. This is for Shotzi the Roselia, Bray the Crobat and Joe the Metang. I lead with Moxley and he leads with Yanmega, which indicates Team D, probably the hardest for me to face due to his lead's unpredictability. Moxley can outspeed, but the AI loves going for Protect turn 1 with Pokemon that have speed boost. However, if I try to predict the Protect and use something like Stealth Rock, Hurricane will obliterate Moxley. So, I switch to Karma straight away, as at least then there's a chance that it's a free switch if Yanmega protects. He doesn't, but Hurricane misses. There's a bunch of protects and both Pokemon miss attacks, but eventually Yanmega nails a critical hit Hurricane as Karma gets off a Toxic. Eventually, despite Aaron using a full restore, I am able to get Kevin in and use Thunderbolt to take him out without risking a crit. Armaldo comes in and locks himself into Stone Edge due to a held choice ban, so I switch to Braun to set up a Stealth Rock which will do nasty damage on Aaron's remaining bugs. An Earthquake and a couple of crunches eventually take him out as he kept missing most of his Stone Edges. Vespiquen is handled easily by a dose of Karma for Kenny's death. Aaron's ace, Drapion, who already has 3 kills to his name in this run, is next, but I have the perfect counter this time in the form of Braun, who can switch in on an Earthquake and after a Protect can use his own Earthquake to take Drapion out. Scizor is next, but Moxley is now free to switch in and take him out with the Fire Punch. Heracross is last and has a held Choice Scarf. A Protect reveals that he is going for close combat, so I can switch to Taker and Heracross eventually struggles to death as I win the first Elite 4 fight deathless. There were a few scary initial moments due to the double Protects, Hurricane crit and Toxic miss on Yanmega, but overall it was a pretty clean victory. Next is the ground type Elite 4 member Bertha, who is the only one I haven't interacted with yet. Her lead is a Choice Scarf Tyranitar, which indicates Team C or D. I lead with Karma, who has a held Focus Sash, which lets me freely set up a Rain Dance to get rid of the sand, thus preventing chip damage on all of my Pokemon not named Braun towards the end of the battle in case they are needed. For now, Braun can switch in and safely set up with Substitute and 3 Swords Dances to +6 attack. Both Tyranitar and Mamoswine fall to Bullet Seeds, though the latter gets rid of the Substitute. Dugtrio can't even kill with a choice-banded Aerial Ace, and she goes for Night Slash anyway, so Bullet Seed can take her and the incoming Rhyperior out. Swampert comes in, thus confirming this to be Team C, and can outspeed but can't get the knockout with Aqua Tail, so falls to Bullet Seed as well, as Braun has done his job of getting rid of 5 of Bertha's Pokemon. Claydol is walled by Taker and eventually falls, giving me a straightforward second Elite 4 victory. Flint is next, and here's where Lovedisk will make her debut. I lead with Karma against his Torkoal, which indicates Team D. Karma uses Rain Dance, which means Torkoal is left absorbing sunlight. A Surf brings Torkoal down to I assume 1 HP, which is an insane coincidence because that happened without his held Focus Sash activating. I can now switch to Lovedisk as Flint heals. Lovedisk has a held Choice Scarf because her ability is Hydration instead of Swift Swim. The rain though not only gets rid of the sun but also boosts damage from Surfs. A couple of Surfs can take out Torkoal due to the held Focus Sash activating, and all he does is set up Stealth Rocks, which should not be a problem. Houndoom, Arcanine and Choice Scarf Typhlosion are all outsped and one-shot with Surf, as the rain stops when Magmortar comes in. I switch to Kevin on a Thunderbolt and he can't be one-shot, so I'm free to paralyze him with Thunder Wave, then use Rain Dance to reduce damage from future Fire Blasts and eventually take him out with Thunderbolts as he remained fully paralyzed. Drifblim is last, but a couple of Thunderbolts can take him out too for a third Deathless Elite Four member. Last of the Elite Four is Lucian, who leads with Espeon, thus confirming Team A, which is probably the easiest to deal with for my team. Taker leads to use Captivate thrice, and I then switch to Brawn to set up Substitute and then use Rock Polish and Swords Dance to set up to +6 speed and attack each. Brawn can then use Crunch a bunch of times to take out his entire team, and I've beaten the Elite Four deathless, which means I can be a bit more aggressive for the champion fight. It's all led up to this. One final fight against Cynthia and I have all 6 Pokemon healthy and ready to die in battle if it means we win this challenge. She leads with Spiritomb, which indicates Team A. I lead with Love Disc holding a Choice Specs, and due to her part Fairy typing in this game, a stab boosted Moonblast can one-shot the Spiritomb. Roserade comes in, so I switch to Karma, who is put to sleep but wakes up in one turn to hit a nasty Ice Beam. This causes Cynthia to switch to Milotic, who proceeds to PP stall Karma out of all her Sludge Bomb PP while using Recover to stay healthy. A full restore furthers the misery, so I switch to Love Disc on a Surf, but she misses a Toxic as Milotic nails like her 4th Hypnosis. I can't stay in because Love Disc is needed against Garchomp, so I switch Karma back in to waste some PP. I switch to Taker and Milotic nails another Hypnosis. Eventually, she is stalled out of Surf and Ice Beam PP and is left using only Hypnosis. So I switch Love Disc in to let her wake up and use Toxic, as Milotic hits her 9th what feels like 100% accurate Hypnosis. Eventually, Milotic begins to struggle, and once Love Disc wakes up, I switch to Taker and Milotic falls. Togekiss with Air Slash and Serene Grace comes in, but Cynthia is going for Moonblast, so I switch to Karma, but Cynthia cheats and uses Thunder Wave. Some luck finally goes my way as Karma dodges an Air Slash and gets a freeze with Ice Beam. Unfortunately, I do have to let Karma eventually faint here, as it wastes Air Slash PP, a full restore, and gives me a free switch. Taker can use Will-O-Wisp and Shadow Sneak to slowly chip away at Togekiss as she starts going for Air Slashes. I switch to Kevin, but of course Cynthia uses Moonblast on that turn. Thankfully, it doesn't crit, so while Kevin does eventually fall, Togekiss does too. I assume Roserade is coming in based on team order, so send in Moxley, but Cynthia is far too intelligent for that and sends in Garchomp. I switch to Taker on an Outrage for another sacrifice, as the battle has come down to a 3v3. Taker's sacrifice does mean that Love Disc can easily come in, outspeed, and one-shot Cynthia's terrifying ace with Moonblast. She has held her own and done everything asked of her until now and can rest peacefully as Roserade's Sludge Bomb takes her out. Love Disc does manage to get in a decent Moonblast before fainting though. I send in Moxley, who has a held Choice Span and can take out Roserade with Fire Punch. Cynthia's final Pokemon is a Life Orb Adaptability Lucario, but can only potentially cause issues if she goes for extreme speed and gets the critical hit. She doesn't, so one final Fire Punch ends her life and Cynthia's reign as champion, thus winning me the run. The final fight had a lot of bad luck, but with the valiant sacrifices of Karma, Kevin, Taker, and Love Disc, I was able to make it through. That game was so much fun though. I know I whined about Barry and the gym leaders not being in their gyms, but overall I had a blast playing this on stream and I'm so glad to have come out victorious at the end of it. If you haven't already, I'd highly recommend that you play Pokemon Renegade Platinum. If you enjoyed this video and part 1, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button to support the channel, as it'll only take up to 5 seconds of your time. If you disagree with any plays or feel that using Perish Song strats are way too cheesy, let me know in the comments. I'd also recommend checking out my videos on Nuzlocking Pokemon Inclement Emerald and the Monotype Pokemon Fire Red challenges. Thanks so much for watching, see ya!